How to implement a training plan that improves the quality and engagement of your spa team. The world is changing rapidly, and so are the methods and techniques for training your workforce. This session will explore some of the opportunities available to employers to develop and maintain a motivated, qualified spa and wellness team. So today let's focus in on 3 key elements. 1, why training is so important. 2, what the principles of highly successful training are. And 3, how to create and deliver truly potent and powerful training. So let me first ask you to consider and answer 2 questions for yourself. First, when did you last attend a training? I'm always amazed how infrequently people go on training, and seemingly the higher level of responsibility with those I coach, the less frequently it gets. Second question, do you have a training budget for each employee? I can't tell you how many times a week I have a conversation with business owners and operators that want to see their business grow and their people develop, but have absolutely no budget assigned to making that happen in any format or capacity. In the next break, why not share when you last attended a training and what type of budget you have per employee with your fellow colleagues? It's a great way to open conversation and learn from one another. But irrelevant to the format you use to bring your learning to life, the value of training and developing your people, your greatest asset, must never be underestimated. So let's look at 7 key reasons training needs to be at the top of your agenda. Integration. That's integration into the business concept, culture, and all your processes and procedures. Competitive advantage. As the quote says, if you're not getting better, you are getting worse. 3. Developing your assets. This is a people business like no other. Beautiful buildings and state-of-the-art stuff is great, but your value is always in the hearts and minds of your people. Performance. If you want your team to perform well and consistently, you have to invest in them consistently and treat them well. Change. Things change, don't they? You have to train for it both proactively where possible and reactively when not possible to truly thrive. Practice, because no one truly masters anything without repetition. And developing excellence, because you should never strive for anything less. So if we know training is so important, why does it so often fail? Well, these are some of the common misconceptions I hear. Things like, what's the point in training them? They'll just leave. And we all know the quote, why train our people if they're going to leave? And, well, actually, what if we don't train them and they stay? People tell me it's cheaper to hire new than to train and invest in their existing team. This may sometimes be true, but often I see organisations that have never dug deep enough and don't really understand the true capability of their existing team before they make that call. Employees don't like training. I don't think that is true. Employees don't like boring training. Employees don't like irrelevant training. And employees don't like training that doesn't engage them or show them how to apply their learning. Some people say nothing works. Well, nothing works if you haven't first defined what successful training needed to look like. Sometimes we have to work backwards and be clear where we want to go, then look at the best route and options to get us there. Some say nothing lasts. Yes, even the best training can be like a firework. We all stand and marvel momentarily and ooh and ah and puff, it's gone. But you know that if you showered this morning, you won't still be clean next month. So let's not have such high expectations on a 1 hour or 1 day training without also knowing we have to implement a relevant strategy to embed, measure and manage the learning post-delivery on the job. It's too expensive. Well, training is an investment. You will have to spend money, but your people are your greatest asset. So spend wisely, spend where it matters most, and not only will you reap the rewards in revenue, you'll drive down costs and skyrocket engagement and retention. I promise. All too often, training actually fails when the business needs and the specific outcomes and objectives of the learning were not clearly identified or defined from the outset. We have to think more like marketeers. When it comes to developing our training strategy, you wouldn't launch a product without first defining your target market and then learning all you can about them. So why do we allow training to happen without doing the same? Training is phenomenal when you create and deliver the right training in the right way to the right people at the right time. So here are some of the things I always want to know when looking to create or deliver training. What are the business objectives and are they clearly defined? Who are the individuals to be trained and do they have the capacity to change? How will you engage those to be trained? How effective is the training solution and what format will it take? How will the training be embedded? And how will you measure success? So let's take a closer look at these key points, and if you'd like a copy of these questions as a prompt sheet to probe you in your learning and development strategy, just ping me an email at sparbschool@gmail.com. That's sparbschool@gmail.com, and I'll ping it straight back over to you. So the first one was, what are the business objectives and are they clearly defined? So think about, what does the business want to change and why? How do you know training is the solution or even part of it? And what else is needed to achieve the change? Then, who are the individuals to be trained and do they have the capacity to change? So let's think about, how motivated are they? How capable are they of taking on board new knowledge, skills, ways of working? Are there any consequences for them for not improving their skills, knowledge or approach? And then we had, how will you engage those to be trained? Think about, how have you involved each person in the process? Do they buy into the benefits and outcomes of the training they're being signed up for? How have you taken account of personal objectives and motivations and made the connection between these and the training? Have you identified any other business priorities which could detract from the training and dilute the attention of the delegates? And then, how effective is the training solution and what format will it take? So think about, does it use relevant scenarios and language? Does it appeal to all learning styles? Is it pitched appropriately for the level of experience of the learners? Is it dependent on the success of one workshop or composed of layers to reinforce the learnings? How have you made it safe for delegates to try new approaches and make mistakes within the training? And have you recognised and overcome or mitigated any group dynamics which could hijack the learning process? And then we had, how will the training be embedded? So let's think about, what existing forums could we use to reinforce the key messages? In what practical ways could you encourage the delegates to apply their new knowledge and skills, for example, in projects? How have you communicated the training outcomes to managers and others who could support the learning? And how will you measure success? Think about what mechanisms already exist or chart progress. Who is the best place to see improvements in performance? And what reward and recognition activities would work well for these delegates? So now we've looked at why training is so important and what makes it successful. Let's look at the how to create and deliver that potent and powerful training. So, does online learning really work? Well, I get asked this question so often, followed closely by, is it better than classroom learning? Well, online learning gives you the flexibility to develop quality, scale, and accessibility. This is critical in today's competitive marketplace and impossible to replicate in a classroom-only setting. However, I believe the most potent and powerful form of training is blended learning. So, what is blended learning? Well, it's actually not new. We learn from a blend of doing stuff now. Most of us read books, read articles on the web, watch videos, chat to friends. Well, all of these things are a form of learning, aren't they? Blended learning just focuses on using a combination of these wide range of learning mediums and resources to create a training or learning and development package to achieve a focused aim or objective that is more engaging. You know the saying, variety is the spice of life? Well, it really is the same for learning. Let's take a look at a 2-day retail sales course, because who doesn't want to see their retail sales skyrocket? A standard 2-day classroom course, 16 hours of learning, might unfold something like this. Welcome and introductions, followed by the history of the brand, more detail about the brand concept and philosophy, product details including ingredients, benefits and how to use, then some role play around consultation and prescriptions, and even some training around sales terminology, communication skills and objections and barriers to selling. Now, in and of itself, that could be a good training. The problem is, having managed a global training team and both attended and evaluated thousands of trainings over the past 20 plus years, I know even with the best planning, so much time in classroom-based training is lost and unproductive. Consumed by the inevitable challenges of bringing people together, issues such as resources not being where they need to be, learners arriving late, being interrupted in the learning environment, particularly when it's on-site, variances of age of the learners, wide mix of abilities and motivation for being in the room, and group dynamics all play a part in seeing limited time impacted. But if we take a blended learning approach, not only can we eradicate most of these challenges, we can reduce the amount of time needed in the classroom and maximise the efficiency and effectiveness of the time we do have together and the longevity of the benefits the learning brings about. Imagine how much more powerful the learning is when everyone is on the same level playing field when they arrive. How much more positive the group dynamics are when some collaboration has been done in advance of the face-to-face. Imagine how much easier it is for the trainer when she can get an insight into the skill and mindset of her learners before she stands in front of them, and even possibly before the final format and flow of the classroom learning has been finalised. Imagine then post-learning if we can find ways to measure and manage the learning that keeps reigniting the spark for learning and embeds it in a way that allows it to become second nature. Well, simple things like creating an online questionnaire that individual learners can answer before the classroom element gives them an opportunity to highlight fears, concerns and/or observe personal challenges. But it also empowers the trainer to know her audience and to establish the best arrangement in the class, the best formats to deliver the learning, and the best styles to assess the learning throughout the delivery. Training feels so much more personal when your trainer already has some insight to who you are, what you need, and what you already bring to the table. Imagine if you also hosted an introductory webinar to the classroom element, either simply as a way to introduce the learners to the teacher and the key elements of what they'll be learning and what they can do to prepare, so reinforcing the fact that learning is a participatory activity. But you could also release a few videos to engage and excite the learners, covering the more factual elements of the course. Facts and process-based learning work exceptionally well online. So things like an introductory video from the brand founder, sharing why the brand is what it is and does what it does. Then follow that up with an insight into the key products, their signature ingredients and the benefits to those end users. And maybe a final one on effective communication and how that might look, so learners can already start to become aware of what they say, how they say it, and the importance of that self-awareness in selling. You could even send out a box of products in advance of the training with some little fact sheets about each one, or a quiz or research paper to get the learners active and engaged prior to that classroom element. Now you have an opportunity to actually reduce the learning to possibly even one day, because the key thing we want to do really when we are face-to-face is get practical, especially in this industry. Classroom-based learning is irreplaceable for building confidence and things like role play and challenging learners, teamwork and taking people out of their comfort zone. So let's take a massage course. We won't go through it all, but again, understanding the learners with a detailed questionnaire or about you form prior to the face-to-face element can be really powerful. You could even take the anatomy and physiology element online and create an interactive learning module on all the possible contraindications to empower the individuals to truly deepen their awareness and understanding of the policies, procedures and protocols around delivering the massage in advance. Even a drag and drop module for how to set up the treatment room to your brand standards could go online. That way, when the learners enter the classroom, they can go right into their hygiene protocols, set up their room, get the trolley and couch ready, and even go and welcome and consult their mock guests in line with those pre-learned protocols. This means that the lion's share of the face-to-face training can be centred around massaging, and massaging. Because remember, mastering anything takes practice. Let's also take a business building course. How better to get the learners engaged in the content ahead of any face-to-face element by having them do some research and real fact-finding. When I created the Spa Management Development Programme for Accor, the introductory webinars, the personal and business evaluations, and the 64-page pre-course workbook were critical in not only getting the learners where we needed them to be prior to the intensive workshop, but also in ensuring that they were able to come to the workshop with all the relevant figures, statistics and research to build their future business strategy and action plans effectively. They were then able to leave the programme with a relevant, realistic and comprehensive business action plan, quantified and qualified by their own hard work. My job became more about challenging their thinking, having them prove their thoughts and theories, and committing to actions that were reasonable and in line with their unique and individual style of leadership, and in line with the dynamics of the senior managers and overall culture at their specific property. You see, there is absolutely no doubt that blended learning improves productivity in the learning environment and beyond, which equals a more confident performance back in the business and ultimately greater profitability. But stop. Isn't it all too expensive, I hear you say? Well, actually, it's definitely not as expensive as not training. The biggest cost is identifying and defining what you need to change or improve in your business. Today, the options and opportunities to suit all budgets and needs adequately thereafter are unlimited. The key considerations to the online elements is, of course, in the creating of the content and developing the medium itself. Hosting any online elements and password security protection and technical support to assist with that. But the hosting and safety and technical elements seem to scare people most, but this can be as little as tens of euros to just a few €100. The beauty of modern times and technological advancement is there really is an option when blending learning to suit every budget. But don't take my word for it. Let's look at the evidence for blended learning. Dow are an American multinational chemical corporation. They used to spend around $195 per learner per course. They implemented an e-learning strategy that then took 90% of their blended learning online and were able to reduce to $11 per learner per course, saving them a staggering £34 million. Ernst & Young went from 2,900 hours of classroom training to a blended programme that integrated 700 hours of web-based learning, 200 hours of distance and 500 hours of classroom, a total of 1,400 hours, which cut their costs by 35% and saved 52% of valuable resource time. Then take BT, British Telecommunications, a multinational telecommunications company based here in the UK. They delivered e-business training to 23,000 employees in just 3 months. That's impossible with classroom-only training. It cost them $5.9 million to do it, but compared to $17.8 million over a 5-year time span for their previous classroom-based version, saving them a staggering £11.9 million. Then let's take Jurors Inn, a fellow hospitality brand founded in Ireland. They implemented an e-learning programme that reduced their classroom training by 32%, and they saw employee turnover drop by a massive 38% after delivering 26,000 courses in just 6 months. Now that's engagement. The giant that is Tesco, a multinational grocery and general merchandise retailer, were able to train 4,000 staff in 6 weeks with their new e-learning programme. John Lewis, a chain of upmarket department stores, launched a Think Secure e-campaign to protect security data and fall in line with compliance for employees. And they were able to reach 75,000 people quickly and effectively with that e-learning campaign. Then we have the fast food giant that is McDonald's. They had a new till system that needed to be rolled out across their restaurants, 1,300 in total, and were worried for the impact this would have on their staff and their customers. So, wanting to create a safe place to practice and learning without risk, they designed their learning as an online game. They implemented a replica of the new till system into a game and had over 145,000 employees visit in the first year. 85% of those crew members that used it or played it said that it definitely helped them improve performance. But in fact, the results were outstanding. By implementing the till system first as an online game, when the actual till system was implemented throughout those 1,300 restaurants, they saw a 7.9 second reduction for each till service, with an increased spend in average of over 15 pence, totaling an increased revenue from each restaurant of 18,000. A £23.7 million uplift from one game in the UK alone. Now, I'm not sure about you, but results like that get me super excited, and the message from all these results are clear. If you can truly bring your learning to life, you will reap the rewards without any doubt. I've been Michelle Hammond, founder and director of Spa Business School, an education to spa life. You can learn more about Spa Business School at spabusinessschool.com.